right, folks, let's get going. First off, thanks for joining us today for LSC Digital's webinar. And today we're going to talk about the recent announcement of the release of Google's BERT algorithm. And basically what we're going to talk about today, here's the agenda, is ultimately what is this BERT algorithm that you're hearing so much about? When is it used? How will this impact not just search results, but also impact your featured snippets, which are becoming more and more important? Also, can you optimize for BERT? Is there any proactive strategies that you can do to put you in a better position to rank well in regards to BERT? And also, too, is BERT a big deal? Yes or no? There's been a lot of cross chatter about that as well. Also, we'll talk about some common misconceptions, because I'm actually seeing a lot of talk about things that people are just there's a lot of misinformation out there that I wouldn't mind taking a few minutes to talk about. And then that will lead into EAT and EAT scoring. And you guys have heard about EAT probably, but there's actually been some really big developments as far as EAT scoring the past couple months that I think are being overlooked by a lot of people. So we'll take some time about that. Exactly what is EAT? Why does EAT matter? Tactics to improve your EAT score. So we'll take some time with that as well. And then we'll answer any of your questions. So before we get right into it, I am going to do the obligatory little commercial about LSC Digital. LSC Digital, we're part of List Services, which has been around for about 40 years. LSC Digital is the agency side of that organization, where we are a full service firm, so we do everything from account-based marketing to paid search advertising, search engine optimization, conversion optimization, social advertising, content. We do it all. We are a full service firm, so hopefully we got, if you see anything you like, you're real impressed by everything we're saying, feel free to reach out to us and we'll see how we can help you out. We work with companies of all shapes and sizes, from large institutions to medium to small size businesses. So give us a call if we can help you out, lscdigital.com. So without further ado, let's start talking about BERT. So what does BERT stand for in this algorithm that was just announced? BERT stands for Bidirectional Encoder Representations Transformers. What does that mean? That means it's a new method of pre-training language representations which obtain state-of-the-art results on a wide array of natural language processing, otherwise known as LMP task. So what does that mean? BERT can help computers understand language more like humans do. That's basically it, okay? What the BERT algorithm is, at the end of the day, is helping computers understand how people really talk, how people really type, okay? So that's the value of BERT. That's why BERT is extremely important. And today we'll go through how that works, and I'll also give you some examples of before and after. So why is this such a big deal, okay? So BERT is different in the fact that it has the ability to train language models based on the entire set of words in a sentence or query. So that's where the bidirectional comes from. Okay, traditionally, Google can understand queries just from a traditional left to right or a left to right and right to left sequence of words. And that's how it's deciding the importance. And that necessarily isn't always how people speak, okay, or type or communicate. And BERT is trying to understand how we naturally speak with each other. Now, the BERT allows the language model to learn from context based on the surrounding words, rather than just the word that's immediately before or after it. And this is big. It doesn't sound big maybe to some of you folks, but it's actually extremely big. So I'll give you a very basic example, okay? So why is this such a big deal? So here's two common phrases, okay? 9 to 5, a quarter to 5. Google traditionally has a very hard time with the meaning of that too. So you and I very easily know that when somebody says 9 to 5, that they mean 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or an 8-hour period. And if a person says 4:45, that they mean 4:45. Now, it's not so easy for the algorithms though. So that 9 to 5 could mean, hey, am I comparing 9 to a 5? That 1/4 to 5, am I comparing 1/4 to a 5? Or is it 1/4 of a 5? Is it the difference between 9 or 5? So there's a lot of things that could mean to the algorithm. So what BERT's helping do is understanding what that 2 is, putting that into context, that 9 to 5 or that 1/4 to 5. And there's a great post, and I'm actually going to use some examples from this post right on the blog of Google from the Vice President of Search about understanding searches better than ever before, and they're really going into BERT. Okay, it's actually a somewhat interesting read. Everybody who's on this webinar and has registered for this webinar, you will receive a copy of the video because we are recording this, and you'll also receive the copy of the deck. So if you miss anything, don't worry, but I cite a lot of sources here, and you'll have all of that to refer back to, so don't worry if you miss anything, okay? And in this, he gives some really great examples and starts talking through BERT and how that all works. So I'll start right here, and here's one of the examples that they give. So, do estheticians stand a lot at work? Now, traditionally, Google would look at that and really look at, do estheticians stand a lot at work? And their approach would be matching keywords. So matching the term stand by itself and the word stand in the query. So that's not really the right use of the term within context. So because of that, it gave back results as far as comparing different types of jobs in that skill set. Now what they're really looking for, what BERT is allowing them to do, is really understand the context of that stand, okay? So before it was just going, okay, different types of estheticians versus, what's the physical demands. So by understanding the context of stand in that search query, they're able to give you a better search result. And obviously that's extremely important. Another great example that I really liked was, can you get medicine for someone at a pharmacy? Okay, so here's before the release of the BERT algorithm. Okay, so they're trying to better understand that for someone. And traditionally, when you're just looking at the query from left to right or right to left and looking at the order of the words, the for someone doesn't really have a lot of importance. The can you get the medicine has a lot of importance, the pharmacy has a lot of importance, but the someone does not. So now with putting the BERT algorithm into play, now it understands the context of that someone. So now can you get medicine for someone pharmacy, and it now will shoot back the result, can a patient have a friend or family member pick up a prescription? Once again, now it's understanding the context, not just the order of the words. Another really good example is math practice books for adults. So traditionally, going off of keywords and queries and volume of those queries, that math practice books for adults would have came back and been included in the category of young adult. So this would be the type of search result that you receive. Now, with BERT, it understands that adult is being matched out of context in this. So now it's improving the context of that adult, where now they'll get a return of math for grown-ups. So just carrying along that theme, understanding how people really talk and the importance of words, and it's not really about the order of the words, it's how they're being used. And then finally, featured snippets. Okay, and this is a really great example when somebody does a search for parking on a hill with no curb. Okay, now in the past, if you look at this before, all right, the word no isn't really given that much importance. Okay, those connecting type of words, those stop words, aren't really in traditional search algorithms. Going back to that 2 example, the search engines have a really tough time working with them. So parking on a hill with no curb, they got parking on a hill, they got curb, but they don't have the no part. Okay, they don't understand that context. They understand by order of the words at the beginning and the end, those are important words, but all the context within the middle, they don't really get. So they really focus on parking on a hill. Versus now, with the BERT algorithm in play, it understands that context. So now it gives back a result about parking on a hill that doesn't have a curb. So that's really the value of BERT. And those are just some brief examples of what, how BERT works. So it's about understanding context of words and natural language, which is really, really important and does give more important search results. And that's why this has been released to about 10% of all search queries in the US are currently being impacted by BERT. Now, this might go the question to a lot of people, well, what's the difference between BERT and RankBrain? Okay, so in 2015, Google announced the algorithm of RankBrain. And basically what that was machine learning. Okay, so what RankBrain did was look at whatever the current query was and found past similar queries that it could match up and see the click rates, things like that. Then it reviewed the performance of that, historically, and based on that, that's how it would send people through. So pretty straightforward machine learning. Hey, this search query, what has it been done in the past? When I served up this type of content, what was the click-through rates or what was the engagement of that? So it's pretty straightforward machine learning. That was announced in 2015, was probably in play a couple years before that. Now, how BERT is different, as we kind of touched upon before, now BERT was actually made open source in 2018. Okay, so that's a little side note for everybody. These algorithms, they might be announcing it at the end of October 2019. There's been a lot of things going on well before the announcement. So BERT is actually been open source since about 2018. Facebook used the version. All platforms, all the popular platforms pretty much are using some type of version of BERT right now. But once again, coming a little bit back on track, BERT isn't really doing the machine learning where it's looking at past queries. It's trying to understand the context of those queries. So I'm going to read a little bit, but BERT looks at the content before and after a word to inform its understanding of the meaning and relevance of that word. So it's just not looking at past results. It's trying to understand how that term is being used and what's more relevant. And this is a critical enhancement in natural language processing as human communication is naturally layered and complex. So this is BERT trying to understand those complexities of language instead of just trying to order them and look at historical information like RankBrain does. Now, to be perfectly clear, BERT isn't here to replace RankBrain, okay? Google may use multiple methods, multiple algorithms, together, only a few, all of them in tandem, combination of, there's tons and tons of different algorithms out there. And there's a good article on Search Engine Land that I cite as well that's worth a little bit of a look that you can check out that goes into that a little bit. But this is not replacing RankBrain. It's enhancing the Google algorithms. Okay, so Google can give you better results across the board. And honestly, BERT isn't really any surprise. It's really a continuation of what Google has really been working on, that people have really known that they've been working on since about 2011. So this is a process. This is a natural progression. So way back in 2014, Google spent more than $500 million to purchase the artificial intelligence company DeepMind. Now, the past few years, and I cited this in our last webinar, What's Up with Google, that you can see in our YouTube channel, Google has purchased 38 AI-related businesses, okay? And I cite a blog where I saw that. Now, this is important because AI and machine learning is becoming more and more and more and more important for the algorithm. Now, the challenge is with that, with optimizations, okay? Because it's now understanding that Dave can look at a website and understand the context, the complexity of that communication. So it does bring a challenge, because the AI systems are getting smarter. and they'll be able to answer more and more complex questions, and they'll be able to really pick up those gray areas and have meaning from them. So businesses that are providing valuable information to their audiences really need to understand what's going on here, okay? Because as the systems get smarter, they're going to be able to understand, they're going to be able to answer more complex questions. Unlike now, where a lot of the SERPs, you know, especially on SERP results, are pretty straightforward. How old is so-and-so? You know, what's the weather outside? You know, well, that's changing, you know, and especially as voice search and really engaging using your voice with technology changes, those AIs are going to grow, they're going to learn more, and they're going to be able to answer a lot more complex situations. Like I'm almost starting to envision where you used to see on Star Trek, you know, where they would just talk to the computer, search for this, find this, dig deeper into that. We're getting there, and it's coming about fairly quickly. So that leads to the question, can you optimize for BERT specifically? And the reality is, no, you can't. And that was really one of the main motivations of me wanting to do this webinar, do it so quickly. We usually take a lot of time producing our webinars and coming up with content. We've been seeing a lot of misinformation out there about optimizing for BERT. It's natural language. You can't optimize for natural language, okay? There's nothing to optimize for with BERT, nor anything for anybody to be rethinking. The fundamentals of, you know, these are two quotes that I find from Danny Sullivan's been in the search space forever. He's at Google now. He used to be an SEO journalist. Ryan Jones is a very respected SEO specialist, works for a lot of great, big, huge brands, okay? It's natural language, okay? It's Google trying to understand how we actually talk, how we actually communicate, when we type things in, what do we actually mean? You really can't optimize for that. There's not 3 tips and tricks I can give you to optimize for natural language, okay? This is an algorithm, but there's tons of misinformation out there. And here's some of those current misconceptions, okay? The reality is, BERT is one algorithm out of thousands of algorithms that Google uses. Here's just some of the big ones you know about. You know, Panda, Penguin, Possum, Fred, Pigeon, Hummingbird, Mobile, RankBrain. Now we should put a BERT up there. And there's thousands of algorithms. And they're layered together in search. They all work together. The BERT algorithm is just a language model, okay? So I know people love reports and looking for trends. You can't optimize for BERT. It's just one algorithm out of many. Now, BERT is a big deal, though. No mistaking. BERT is a very big deal, but not the biggest update of all time. You know, I think a lot of that comes from, you know, a quote from the press release that Google put out there, that with the latest advancements from our research team in the science of language understanding, made possible by machine learning, we're making a significant improvement to how we understand queries, representing the biggest leap forward in the past 5 years, and one of the biggest leap forwards in the history of search. It's one of the biggest leap forwards, absolutely. It's a big advancement in the past 5 years, but it's not the biggest advancement. It's not a whole new world. It's not, you know, it's very important and impacts about 10% of all searches, but it's not the biggest thing that's ever happened in search, but it is important. Another misconception is that BERT and EAT are completely separate, but they do work together. And we'll get a little bit more into what EAT is. And the reason I'm mentioning EAT today is because a lot of the misinformation about optimizing for BERT that I've seen has really been talking about EAT. And that's important. And there's actually, like I said at the beginning of this webinar, some really interesting things that's going on with EAT right now and EAT scoring. But BERT and EAT are completely 2 different things, okay? EAT's not even an algorithm, okay? EAT's a guideline, okay? And we'll get a little bit more into that. So with that being said, I just want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in. There should be a box. And if we have time at the end of the webinar, we'll definitely answer any of those. So now let's start talking about EAT. So what does EAT stand for? Okay, what is the EAT rating? EAT stands for expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. Now, what is the EAT rating? And like I said before, EAT is not an algorithm, okay? What EAT is, it's a guideline for quality raters, okay, to assign quality scores to search results for specified queries, but they are used in developing or honing the algorithm. So these are ultimately the people, all right? So this is, there are people out there who rate sites manually. And these are the guidelines, and there's a link, and anybody who does SEO or is responsible for SEO, okay, you need to read this document, okay? It's not thick, it's not dense, it's very understandable. It is a little long, it's over 100 pages, but this will help you out a lot as far as EAT is concerned, as far as building your expertise and your authority and having Google look at you as an authority that matters, that they really care about. So if you, once again, if you are responsible for search engine optimization in your organization, if you are responsible for organic search within your organization, if you have not read these guidelines, you are doing your organization a disservice. They are important, okay, and it does give some very valuable insight to what you need to be doing as an SEO within your organization, okay? So moving back, so these guidelines are used by individuals. So what you'll see a lot of time when an algorithm is released, you'll see all this craziness and all this chatter. Oh my God, my rankings have gone down. My organic traffic has plummeted. My organic traffic is going through the roof. And then you'll see corrections, and then there's always losers and winners at the end of the day, okay? So these, quality raters are helping out with that. Okay, so this is the manual people giving feedback, and the EAT is basically those guidelines for those quality raters. So now in September 2019, several references to high quality were updated to refer instead to high EAT. Now this is important because what they're changing is that it used to be, hey, quality content, quality content, quality content. Quality content is what gets good rankings. And quality content could mean a lot of things. Now they're replacing the term high quality with referring to high EAT, because EAT isn't just about content, okay? And this is really the big takeaway. This is what really matters right here, is EAT now refers to specific authors rather than only brands or websites. This is huge. Remember, I'll put this question out to the audience, and I obviously don't expect anybody to answer, but remember the good old days of authorship and how that was going to be extremely important to the search engines? And then, of course, people gamed it, and then authorship went away. Well, this really shows that now Google, and it's probably driven a lot, and now I'm just, theorizing right here, is that because of all the social channels. So you have somebody who posts on YouTube, who posts videos and talks about certain content, and you see all the engagement that their type of content gets. You have somebody that posts on LinkedIn, and you can see the type of engagement their content gets. Facebook, you name it, Reddit, you name it, whatever. So you can see if this person's an authority on a certain topic. Now, back in the original days of authorship, that wasn't as easy. Okay, and I left out Twitter, and there's other platforms. But now you can see that type of authority and that type of engagement. So this really signals, in my mind, the days of authorship coming back, okay? And if you're a content site, this is huge, okay? Because if you're actively engaged with your audience, if you're actively engaged on different platforms, if you're having a dialogue, if you're seen as an expert on different platforms and you're citing that on your site, you are probably going to greatly help your organic rankings. So this is important. To me, this is a huge development, and this happened back in September, okay? And it really was talked about a little bit, but not so much anymore. And this is really important because this isn't a quick, oh, here's a quick tip type of thing. This is showing that Google's trying to look at all these other channels and the people that are creating the content, and just by going off of that, hey, Bob Smith is an expert on this. He writes for Forbes. If he's writing an article on this other website about, finances, we should really listen to Bob because he's an expert. Okay, that's important. So here's a quick tip. I just quick tip. Here's a tip to help you out as far as eat, and we kind of touched upon it real quick. Author names and biographies for all editorial content. You know, and this is something that I actually try to work with my staff as well about, is that if we're doing a post, your LinkedIn, because I have some very talented people that work here at LSC Digital, but their LinkedIn profile looks not too hot, okay? And they really took 2 seconds with their bio on the website. And they don't do a lot with Twitter except reposting. They don't engage with conversations. But these are people that really know their stuff and should be listened to, okay? So a very quick way about that is, you know, adding your name and biographies to all your editorial content. And I'm took screenshots from the actual guidelines. Now, this is important because I wanted to show this to you, and once again, we'll send all this to everybody, so you're not missing anything. You don't have to write anything down. Is that I wanted to add some screenshots directly from the guidelines that are given to you, because as you can see, it's all written in very, very straightforward language, okay? So anybody can really understand what they're looking for here. So, you know, highlighted right there, I'm just going to read a little bit, is understanding who is responsible for a website is a critical part of assessing EAT, for most types of websites. High quality pages should have clear information about the website so that users feel comfortable trusting the site. So that's that trustworthiness, okay? Now you must consider the reputation and EAT of both the website and the creator of the main content. MC stands for main content, in order to assign a page a quality ranking. So these are the instructions that they're giving quality raters. This is what you have to look for, okay? And the reputation and EAT of the creators of the main content is extremely important when a website has different authors of content. So if you're a content site, you really need to be building up the profiles of the people that are writing their biographies and getting them engaged, good profiles, so people can tell the quality of that individual that's writing that content, so they can, you know, basically put an importance to that, put a score to that, increase the importance of that content because it's written by somebody that really knows their stuff, okay? So next slide. So that leads into to the next point of personal branding. And this is really, nowadays, there was a great saying, and I really forgot who said it, and I hope if anybody's on this and they remember it, feel free to type it in. And it's absolutely true. In regards to online marketing, but probably all marketing at this point, every company is a media company at this point, okay? And personal branding is extremely important, okay? So anybody right now needs to be creating content, needs to be creating video. That's how you're going to drive traffic to your site. You know, even through paid search, you got to be creating content. You got to be creating those landing pages. So building a personal brand is extremely important, okay? So here's just some real quick tips on how to build that personal brand. And once again, pulling directly from the guidelines, okay? Important, research the reputation and EAT of both the website and the creators of the main content. If either are lacking for the purpose of the page, the low or lowest rating is appropriate. So this is just really talking about looking at across the web your brand, all right? So the days of just, and look, I used to do, this is actually how I started making money in SEO in the late 90s and early 2000s. I used to create tons of content site around keyword strategies and sell advertising. And I could bust out a site in a week and just have that multiplier effect, and it was great, okay? But I'll tell you right now, those sites had no authority, okay? I would put up 40, 50 pages of content. I would, you know, do some one-way link building to those, and that would be it. And it would be churn and burn, okay? That stuff doesn't work at all anymore, all right? I know companies still to this day put up this really thin content of 400, 500 pages, Nobody's linking to it. There's no biography. It's no deep. We're guilty of it as well. LSC Digital on our own site, okay? And that's a little bit of the cobbler's kids with no shoes. But those days are gone, okay? So you need to really build up your social media profiles and actively engage with influencers. So technically, your competition, people in the space that talk about the same topics you're talking about. And you also need to engage with your audience. The days of just pushing stuff out online and not have a conversation, if anybody's still doing that with your social, you're just wasting your time. And we run across that with tons of our clients. They're just pushing out content, but they're not talking to their audience at all. It's a complete waste of their time. And it's important to position yourself as a thought leader on trusted platforms, on the Facebooks, on the Twitters, go down the list, on the Reddits, okay? And it's important to be human with your audience. Get personal with your audience. Don't talk about certain things, but be human, okay? Be proactively engaged. Using bots, things like that, once again, really don't work extremely well. And then the next tip, it's about technical. Get your technical things in place here, okay? One thing, and this is becoming so important with Google, and it kind of annoys me, but I get it, is that Chrome is marking all HTTP pages as not secure, So any site without a SSL certificate and doesn't automatically redirect to HTTPS URL is on very thin ice when it comes to the future of the EAT score, okay? So if you don't have an SSL certificate, I really encourage you to get that squared away. It's very inexpensive to do. It's a yearly thing. You're not spending a ton of money. There's also places where you can get one for free, and you just renew it periodically. But getting one in place definitely should be a priority for you if you don't have it in place. And we know a lot of actually fairly big organizations that do not have an SSL certificate in place, but you really should have that in place because it is a legitimacy factor. Also, and we use this example, I pulled this one from search engine journal.com, is, this used to be fairly common, especially in the e-commerce space, okay? Now, this site isn't owned by Nike, has nothing to do with Nike. It sells some Nikes, okay? But they're using the Nike logo, okay? This will negatively impact your EAT score, because it's not legit, okay? Also, what people used to do all the time, and this actually hurts your rankings now, is they used to put up a BB, a Better Business Bureau badge, or a Yahoo, certified Yahoo store, or Google checkout logos. Well, if those don't link back to verified accounts, it's fraudulent, obviously, okay? And if those badges can't be verified, it's not going to hurt your ranking. It's not going to help your rankings. Actually, it's really going to hurt your rankings because they can't be verified. And we work with financial companies where they are actually legit, the badges that they use, but they just put up the badge and they don't actually link to all their reviews and stuff. So that shoots them right in the foot, because with EAT, somebody looks at that and then goes, oh, that's somebody just trying to put up a fake testimonial or something, okay? And obviously you don't want to do that, okay? But the reverse is very helpful. When you have verifiable badges and certifications, that greatly helps your rankings, okay? So that's something that you really want to take into consideration, is the fact that, take the time to do that. A lot of people don't necessarily do that, but I think it's important that you do it. It's very easy to do, and you should absolutely do it. And then going along to the next page, so that's really the presentation for today. And we did receive a couple questions, so I'm gonna, answer them in a second. But just a quick review of what we talked about today. Okay, so Google recently announced the release of BERT. Okay, it's a new algorithm that is trying to understand the natural way people search and people speak to each other, and it's been released to about 10% of all queries that are being done right now. And in our opinion, you can't really optimize for BERT. Okay. Some of them, and that's one of the biggest common misconceptions right now. There's a lot of people out there pushing that right now. I don't know if it's because of clickbait, it's just, I don't know why, but you really can't, okay? What they're really talking about a lot of times in these articles that I've been seeing, they've been talking about EAT, okay? And once again, everybody will receive this PowerPoint, and there will be a link to the guide for EAT. I highly encourage everybody to read it. It's not in lingo that you're not going to understand, and it's extremely valuable. It will help you do your job a lot better. And then finally, just some strategies and tactics. And once again, from LSC Digital's view and my view, the day of authorship is really coming back, and it's coming back hardcore. So you really need to be thinking about that, how you're building your personal brand, getting all those biographies up on your site, building out those biographies, engaging in the audience. That's going to be huge. That's my prediction. And if you're not doing that, I think that's a great thing to focus on if you're a content site to be moving forward. Now, one of the questions that I have here is, how will this change SEO and word placement within website content? See, that's the thing. It doesn't. Okay, it's helping Google better understand, okay, those word placements. So the days of, hey, if there's this word's used in the H1 tag, and then this word is used at the top of the page, so that the traditional way that they weighted the value of keywords, okay, and what to optimize for, those are going away. Okay, so what BERT's doing, it's trying to understand by looking at the context of those words. So, how will this change SEO word placement within a website content? It doesn't, okay? If anything, those traditional rules that everybody always had probably are going to become less and less important. And that's where, going back to, some of the Twitter screenshots that I put up there, it's really about just putting good content out there, because Google every single day, because of their investment in AI, is getting better and better and better and better at understanding what you actually mean, okay? And that's a big, big change, because I'll tell everybody here, from about 2000 to about 2011, the algorithms were pretty stupid, okay? You could game them pretty easily, okay? It wasn't that big of a deal to get good rankings. It really all came down to the resources you had to get those good rankings, okay? And sometimes that resource was time, sometimes that resource was money, with how many links you could buy or how much content you can buy. Those days are really going away, okay? The days of gaming the algorithm, the AI is just getting way too smart, okay? Which kind of leads into the other question that I had, as far as tactics to optimize and so forth. Now, look, the reality is, and it's kind of negligent on a lot of people's part. How many people have read the Google guidelines? Not just for EAT, but also for webmasters. Okay, there's a lot of information out there. There's also a ton of great tools. I'm not going to, recommend any off the top of the head, but that's really important. Is the algorithms. So that's really important, is tools. So really take the time and understand that, okay? So those were the two questions that I had. We're gonna send out this recording to everybody who's attended, but also all registrants. So if you missed anything, don't worry about it, okay? And then also too, we'll be sending out this PowerPoint. And then also check out our YouTube channel, LSC YouTube. Just do a search for LSC Digital, and you'll see it there. And thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. And if you have any questions, our contact information's up there. Feel free to reach out. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.